Hi everyone. I wanted to start out by thanking so many of you who've had kind words to say about these little videos and the written blogs that I've done over the last couple of years. Writing can be a very frustrating business, and so a few kind words really help. Great motivators, and wanted to thank you again. For those who have been following this for some time, you may remember about a year and a half ago I wrote a little piece about the pleasures of trashy writing, and I cited the Hardy Boys, which I just ate up when I was a kid. My brother Richard and I both loved them. I look at them now, they're just horrible, but when I was 10, 11 years old, they were just great stuff. And read a lot of The Saint, a kind of Robin Hood criminal in 1930s London, who mostly took from the bad guys and gave to the downtrodden, although he always kept a bit of it for himself. And The Man from U.N.C.L.E. books, pure trash, great fun. I read a bunch of those. But I've talked to some other readers, and we found that a lot of us, about the age of 13 or so, decided maybe we should start reading a little better class of book. Is it guilt, or is it just a sense that there's something finally more satisfying about a better book, that the pleasures of trashy writing, which I still enjoy, grow thin after a while. And I think the first one I bought, thinking I got to get serious now, was Exodus. I was about 13 years old, and this is the Exodus by Leon Uris, not the one by Moses that I read sometime later. And this is, I was looking at my bookcase, this is the actual copy I bought when I was about 13 years old. It was 95 cents. And, you know, it's not a great classic, but it was very enjoyable. It had lots of action. I found that good books can have lots of action too, but it was about serious things and believable people. And it was more satisfying. About the same time, maybe when I was 14, I read Dr. Zhivago. And I thought that was the most romantic book I'd ever read in my life. Or maybe at 14, you know, you're so romantic anyway that, you know, you could read the phone book and it would seem romantic. But I just loved it. Here you have Zhivago torn between the love of two women and the great spectacle of the Russian Revolution, the First World War, just in those sections of the book just before that, and loved that book. And so I started mixing more serious books in with my trashy ones, still enjoying them both. I may have mentioned before in these little videos that at about the age of 21, I bought a copy of A Farewell to Arms from the college library for $1. And just I'd heard of the book and thought, well, maybe I should read something of him. And as I think I said before, it was like falling in love. The story absolutely gripped me. It moved so well. There was a simplicity of language that, as a writer, I found later was so deceptive. It's very, very hard to write this way. And he still has influence on people. I was speaking to a young woman author here not so long ago. I suppose she was in her late 20s. And she had just read Hemingway for the first time. And she said with this voice of wonder, "Oh, you can write like that." And I think I've found my own voice since then, but you're always influenced by the ones that have really made an impact on you. And maybe it was this first chapter of A Farewell to Arms that gripped me so well. We talk often about elegant variation. That is, you hate to use the same word too many times in a sentence or two. For one moment you're talking about the woods, and then you talk about maybe the trees or the forest. You don't want to keep using the same word over and over again. And it's called elegant variation. It's supposed to be the mark of a good writer. And Hemingway absolutely defied that and changed the style of writing in English for a good half-century by doing what you might call elegant repetition. And he just casts a spell over you by this repetition of words. And maybe it was even the first chapter of this that drew me in. So here's the first chapter of A Farewell to Arms. And listen for the repetition, words that are similar or exactly the same. And he just keeps repeating them until you have this perfect picture of what he's talking about. In the late summer of that year, we lived in a house in a village that looked across the river and the plains to the mountains. In the bed of the river there were pebbles and boulders, dry and white in the sun, and the water was clear and swiftly moving and blue in the channels. Troops went by the house and down the road, and the dust they raised powdered the leaves of the trees. The trunks of the trees too were dusty, and the leaves fell early that year, and we saw the troops marching along the road, and the dust rising, and leaves stirred by the breeze falling, and the soldiers marching, and afterward the road bare and white except for the leaves. You can just see it. And so there can be a lot of action and great writing and more satisfying books. And that maybe is the biggest influence on me. I was going to say that people are always asking me who my influences are, but the truth is nobody ever asks me that. Nobody cares. But if I'm speaking to other writers, we care. Or those of us who just have favorite authors, we care a great deal. And so there's one that still matters to me. Maybe next time I'll talk a little bit more about my upcoming book. Can't forget to mention that. To Live and Die in the Floating World, coming out October 5th. Until next time, so long.